Hey, well, today I'm angry at fat people. And you may wonder why, in this age of PC culture, I would dare to say such a thing. I mean, isn't being fat a lifestyle choice? Isn't healthy at any weight considered the new mantra? No, it's not. You are not healthy if you are fat. And as a matter of fact, with this COVID-19 virus, you are at extreme risk if you are fat. You might say that the fat among us have exacerbated this COVID-19 pandemic to the point that all of us are now being locked down. Let's take a look at some of the data. This is a quote from Dr. Leora Horowitz, the director of the Center for Healthcare Innovation and Delivery Science at NYU Langone. And she points out that obesity is a more important factor for being hospitalized with COVID-19 than high blood pressure or diabetes, and is even more important than coronary disease or cancer or kidney disease or even pulmonary disease. So is this just an isolated example? No, it's not. Here's another NYU Langone study focusing on patients under 60, and that found that those with obesity were twice as likely to be hospitalized. This result was also noticed in Louisiana at the Ochsner Health system with hospitals in Louisiana and southern Mississippi, where Dr. Leo Sohn, the company's senior VP, said that 60% of patients hospitalized with COVID-19 had obesity, and that obesity appeared to nearly double your risk of requiring a ventilator. Here's a study out of China. They looked at the outcomes among a group of 112 COVID-19 patients, and of the 17 who died, 15 were either overweight or obese. Another example. This is from the CDC Morbidity and Mortality Weekly Report. They looked at clinical data from almost 1,500 patients. They could only get data on underlying conditions from 12%, but of those 12%, 48.3% were obese. Now, I have nothing against anybody who decides to be obese. I mean, you can live whichever life you wish to live, and I have no problem with it until it affects the rest of us. And it is now affecting the rest of us. The fact that obese people are at risk of worse health outcomes is the reason why all of us are now suffering lockdown. If none of us were obese, this COVID-19 epidemic would have a much less effect on the population. Many people are going to take this argument as a sign of fat phobia, that I'm against fat people. I don't disagree with anybody's lifestyle choices. You can live life as you wish. Take drugs, be fat, do whatever you wish. I don't believe anybody should restrict what you do until it affects somebody else. And apparently being obese is affecting all of us. Now, a step back. What is obese? Obese is considered to be those with a body mass index greater than 30. And if it's greater than 40, you're considered to be morbidly obese. We have a big situation in this country because Americans, almost half of them are obese. And so this is one of the reasons why healthcare is so expensive in this country. There is no right to be fat or overweight if that causes the rest of us to have to deal with the consequences. When you're overweight, your body is perpetually dealing with a low level of inflammation. And the chances of a cytokine storm, which is this great risk with COVID-19, is far greater for you. If we were all healthy, this pandemic would have swept through us to a much lesser extent, and we wouldn't be facing the problems that we are facing now. Do we have a right as a society to impose some kind of health strictures on people? I mean, New York is taxing sodas. I mean, if you're overweight and you impose costs on society, does society have the right to impose costs on you? I mean, airlines are now charging people for 2 seats if they're too fat to fit into one. And shouldn't they? I mean, it is a price per seat, isn't it? Now, a lot of you have probably taken this as a rant against fat people, but this is far from the truth. I have nothing against fat people at all. Everybody can live exactly as they wish until it affects other people. And it appears that being fat is increasing the risk for all of us. The fact that obese people are being hospitalized at a much greater rate than non-obese people should be a warning sign. This PC culture, which has made everything okay, whether you're fat, whether you don't know what gender you are, no matter what group you decide you belong to, it doesn't mean that everybody has to accept the consequences of your choice. People who are obese, I'm sure that some of them do not have a choice. I'm sure that some of them have medical conditions that make it not their option whether to be obese or not. But for the vast majority, I believe there is a choice. And now this choice is affecting all of us. Doesn't the country have any right to discriminate, and I use the word discriminate, against people who are imposing costs on the rest of us? I mean, we don't allow people to drive drunk because of their effect on the rest of us. We didn't think that people being obese had an effect on the rest of us. We thought it was just their own health that was at risk. It turns out it's all of us, not really necessarily our health, but our social health. Because obese people are getting sick at such a rate, we're all being forced to stay indoors. Is this reasonable? Do they have the right to impose on us? Or do we have the right to impose on them? Doesn't society have any rights? Please, let's think about this. Let's grow up and wake up.